Boom, what up, Mage Capital only here. Gonna be doing some quick and dirty Season 11 review. So, as you guys know, Season 11 is coming to a close, and I wanted to sort of make a video where I went through the balanced team's goals for Season 11, and we'll talk about whether they hit those marks, they missed those marks, what the overall feel of Season 11 was like, and we're going to go through it basically point by point, and at the end I'll give a sort of summation of my thoughts on Season 11. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So this is an article from last year. It says, it is called Preseason 2021 Champion Class Item Goals. Now, the article says item goals, but this article does go into larger aspects of gameplay as well, not just items, so I'm not super sure why they titled it as that, but there are other aspects of the gameplay that they do address in this article as well, and this is like the main article that they ever put out that I could find that even talks about what their goals for the season was, right? So let's go ahead and get right into it. The very first, this is going to be juicy, the very first topic that they even talk about is healing and grievous wounds. They said 1 year ago, healing and grievous wounds. Healing has become more prevalent in the game over the last few years, and we'd like to address a few specific problems. Healing has become so common that grievous wounds has gone from a contextual choice meant for healing-heavy games to a viable option in most games. We're looking across runes, items, and champion kits to trim some healing where we think it's necessary, which should in turn reduce the necessity of grievous wounds options in builds. On the other hand, grievous wounds can sometimes feel underpowered when trying to stop a very strong healer, especially when they're snowballed. We're looking to make grievous wounds a sharper effect that more effectively counters extreme healing situations and gives up a bit of its upfront power. So basically, what they're saying here, TLDR, is that healing has become sort of ubiquitous, and so it feels very necessary to buy grievous wounds. Bear in mind that this was a year ago, right? They're saying that healing was so ubiquitous that it felt very necessary to buy grievous wounds in most games, but that grievous wounds can feel underpowered when you're trying to stop someone who's healing a lot, even though it feels like you have to buy it, right? So what they want to do, or what they wanted to do, was take healing in general out of the game while making grievous wounds specifically stronger at countering healing. Now, 1 year later, you know, Season 12 is about to start. How did this go for them? I think we can all agree, as a whole, this goal was a complete and utter failure for the balanced team. Because if anything, you know, I remember back in Season 10 talking about Death Stance, right? Death Stance was the really big healing item that was like really shaping the meta for the entire year, back when Death Stance is just like a universal healing, lifesteal, like delayed damage type item, right? Now it's more of like an anti-physical item that has some healing built in, but back then Death Stance was an issue, right? And that was the main issue. And I remember being like, wow, healing is so crazy in Season 10. Hopefully Season 11 makes it better. And we were excited when we read this, right? 1 year later, in Season 12 is about to start. I think we can all agree that this goal was a complete failure by Riot Games. You know, healing is stronger than ever. It's stronger than it was when they addressed it here. Healing is stronger than it was in season 10. Lifesteal, Omnivamp, the power of champions that don't even have healing built into their kit to just zap their health bar up to full is wild now. You have items like, you know, Shield Bow, which gives a massive shield and, you know, lots of lifesteal. You have items like Gore Drinker giving massive burst heals on a very low cooldown, like Divine Sunder healing big chunks of HP basically every single time that they activate it. You guys have probably seen the video of the Baus with one item Divine Sunder or Jax versus a 6-item Malphite, and the Malphite literally cannot kill him because of Divine Sunder healing. You know, just absolutely crazy stuff. It's shocking to me how badly they failed on this goal. You know, Ravenous Hunter giving Omnivamp, just basically, originally Ravenous Hunter was a rune that gave I guess Spell Vamp was the way to call it. It gave you healing from abilities, right? The thing that changed when they turned it into Omnivamp is treated as Spell Vamp and Lifesteal. Now, AD champions, they benefit basically from Omnivamp as lifesteal, but they also start healing from their abilities now in the form of Omnivamp, right? So the problem with that is they can also then turn in and build lifesteal, take Legend Bloodline, take Ravenous Hunter and then just become complete machine gun healing monsters, right? You see this a lot with Yone. You see this with Yasuo. Those are the two really big offenders in this. Yone, Yasuo, Irelia, like most AD carries that buy shield bow, like they have so much access to healing because of that Ravenous Hunter change. I don't know what they were thinking when they made that Ravenous Hunter change, when they changed it to Omnivamp, why they thought that would be a good idea, and why they thought that would work with this specific goal that they had, where they wanted to address the healing problem. Because literally when I read that Ravenous Hunter goal, I was like, wow, this is going to do the exact opposite. We're gonna have Spell Vamp Lifesteal Monster Yasuo and Yone, like that's gonna happen, right? And clearly it did. So yeah, healing is still absolutely crazy. You have we're sort of like in an Enchanter meta right now, where you know champions like Yumi, you know, Nami, I've seen a lot of Taric and solo queue, right? These champions that have access to healing in their kit to like super buff another champion on their team that's like hyper carry through healing, right? It's just crazy. There's a lot of times where trying to fight an AD carry or trying to fight like a Yone or an Irelia, they feel tankier than like what an actual tank champion would be like because they have so much healing and their health bar just keeps going up, and you hit them and their health bar goes down, then their health bar goes back to full, and then you hit them and their health bar goes down a bit, but then their health bar goes back to full, right? Like this issue with healing in this season was genuinely so bad that Singed legitimately, like when you were playing him, it felt like you could not do damage. It felt like you could not hurt anybody in any meaningful way because everyone was healing so much, right? To the point where they had to add grievous wounds onto Singe's kit. So yeah, complete and utter failure by Riot Games here. This goal did not work out. All right, cooldown. Moving on, cooldown reduction rework. We're reworking cooldown reduction to enable more flexibility in how you use the stat and create clearer build choices, whatever, while still fitting the purpose of letting you cast abilities more often. This new stat is called Ability Haste. Ability Haste stacks linearly. Currently CDR's power stacks exponentially, so the more CDR you had, the more valuable it was. But with Ability Haste, the more Ability Haste, it's additive and it's flat. So 10 Ability Haste, 10% more ability cast, 20 is 20% more, 30 is 30% more, etc. This makes sure every ability haste you buy has the same impact rather than an exponential one. So the thing that basically what they're saying is with cooldown reduction, the more CDR that you bought, the more value you would get from the previous CDR that you bought. This is not the case with ability haste. With ability haste, the more ability haste you buy, it only has the same effect as the ability haste, or like it only adds the same amount of power that you already had from buying your other ability haste, right? It doesn't stack recursively, it doesn't stack multiplicatively, it only stacks additively and only stacks linearly, right? So I think that ability haste in general, it was a success. Oh yeah, ability haste also uncapped, right? So you can buy more than 40% CDR. Now, initially, when we read this, we thought it was going to be crazy. We'd have like every champion in the game running around at like, you know, 60% CDR. The only real big offender I ever see stacking like tons and tons and tons of ability haste is Riven. That's really it. I don't see a lot of champions stacking like absolutely obscene amounts of ability haste, because I think within the item system they've done a pretty good job overall of balancing ability haste. And I think overall it was good. So one of the things I remember about season 10 and seasons prior to that is like, man, it felt like basically every champion that was not AD carry would get, they would get 40% CDR really fast, like really fast, because CDR was so powerful that everyone was hyper incentivized into buying it. I don't see that quite as much anymore. Champions tend to not have quite as much equivalent of CDR in their ability haste as we used to. I noticed it especially with Singed as well, right? Because one of the weak points that Singed always had was, hey, none of my items on Singed, you know, back in the day, in season 10 would give me any ability haste, right? DMP, Leandries, Rylai's, you know, none of that stuff gave ability haste, or sorry, CDR. So that was always an issue that Singed had was he would have to play against enemy champions that are just spamming CDR, spamming it. They'd all be 40% and you'd be there with like a 120-second ult. Feels bad, right? Not so much the case anymore. Yeah, you know, enemy champions will rush a mythic and they'll have some ability haste from that, but it's not so much like that Singed is just, and obviously other champions that don't rush ability haste, that you're just crowded out, right? That you don't have the ability to fight back because your cooldowns are that much longer, right? So I think overall they did a pretty good job with this. In general, ability cooldown in League of Legends is now longer than it was before. Good change. There are a few abusers of the ability haste being uncapped. Fine, you know, it is what it is. I think in general they did do a good job with this, and I think this ability haste change was a success. So kudos to you on that one, Riot. All right, Tenacity. Tenacity is a useful stat. Basically, what they wanted to do was make it so Tenacity would reduce the duration of knockups. They just said no. Decided that it was going to be too much of a pain to put that in the game, and decided it was unhealthy and didn't do it. That's fine. League of Legends, I think, has been... I was excited for this because there are a lot of knockups in the game, so I did like the idea of this. But League of Legends over the years has become a game that has been balanced around knockups being not reducible by Tenacity. So that's fine. We didn't really lose a whole lot. I don't think the game... Like, it's hard to say that this would have even been a net positive for the game. I think that them dialing it back on this probably was fine. All right. So, jungle items. They made it so that jungle items are no longer needed to be purchased, that you can just start building your first item. They did this by making it so that your smite, when you smite 5 times, consumes your hunter's knife, or whatever those starting items are called, and you get the smite based on the color of the knife that you bought, either blue or red. Fair enough. The reason why they did this was because they wanted junglers to have access to mythic items like everybody else, and they did not want to create mythic items specifically for the jungle. Again, fair enough. I think overall, pretty good change. I haven't seen any junglers really complain about this, other than champions like Lee Sin, where they like to get like the not poacher's knife, the one that gave wards. I forget what it was called, but yeah, I mean, in general, they did reduce a lot of like control of the jungle that junglers had in terms of like their vision power. Like, yes, jungle is still by far the strongest role in the game. I think most high elo players would agree with that. Jungle is by far the strongest role in the game, but compared to what it was before, we can agree, I think, that jungle is noticeably weaker than what it was before. Is it still the strongest role in the game? Yes. Is it weaker than it was before? Also yes. The 2 points can exist together. Overall, I think what they did with jungle items was a net positive, and a very creative solution to a problem that existed for a long time, in which they tried to figure out how they could make the jungle work without needing to buy specific items that would let champions clear. So yeah, worked out just fine, I think. If there are certain champions that aren't able to clear the jungle with the new smite system, let me know in the comments. Like, I'd love to know if certain champions aren't able to do it anymore because they took out jungle items, but I don't think that there's a whole lot of those champions left in the game. So yeah, I think overall pretty good change. All right, marksman items. They wanted more strategic choices, agency options, more impactful on one item, and fill in some item gaps. So more strategic choices. They didn't want items to feel like they were a must-buy. They sort of addressed this with the 3 different marksman mythics: the Gale Force giving the jump, the Shield Bow giving the shield and lifesteal, and then Kraken Slayer just being raw damage, right? Agency options. One issue we found was that marksman players report that they are powerful but overly team reliant, so they wanted to make AD carries less team reliant overall. They said that in order for AD carries to get some solo agency, they will have to lessen their best in class DPS. Now we did see this a bit. We see more mages in bot lane now, and you see less AD carry players complaining about them. You know, you see more Ziggs in bot lane, you see more Swains in bot lane. Now you see Syndras in bot lane, you'll see like double Enchanter bot lane. But what I don't see as much is I don't see as much marksman complaints about these things. I think that they did do well on this goal in making AD carry players feel like they're gonna have some sort of like solo impact through giving them, you know, whether or not you think Shield Bow is healthy, through giving them options like Shield Bow that reduce their tendency to get one shot. So it makes them feel like they can take some sort of a risky play and overstep that just a little bit to get the extra auto attack and get a kill, right, without just instantly getting zapped for it. So yeah, regardless of whether or not we think that, you know, certain items are balanced or not, they did do well on this goal. This goal was a success for them. Is it healthy overall for the game? Yeah, I think so. I don't think that AD carry should be the end-all be-all game-defining class of the late game that League of Legends is always perpetually balanced around. I remember whenever I first became very vocal about balance, like way back in like season 5, season 6, when I first hit Challenger, I remember speaking to a writer on Twitter, and I remember being like, why is it that AD carry is always just God mode, you know, unbeatable 1v5 machine late game? And they're like, and they told me basically, quit crying, AD carry, the game is balanced around AD carry. The whole game is balanced around AD carry. The way that they talked about it, I forget who the writer was now, but like the way they talked about it, they were like, yeah, the whole game of League of Legends is just meant to be the two AD carries, you know, and their 4 minions following them around until late game, when both the AD carries just fight with their minions around them. I'm like, that's stupid, you know. There's 20 players, or sorry, there's 10 players in the game, 5 players each team. Shouldn't every player feel like that they're having an equivalent amount of impact on the game? Like, shouldn't ideally each role be 20% of the impact in the game? And you know, obviously jungle is a little bit overrepresented right now in terms of its power, but like, that's what I thought. I thought that every role should be like generally considered equal, but what they used to think back then was that, you know, AD carry is just end all be all, right? I'm glad to see that things are sort of changing nowadays, where they're willing to make AD carries have less damage in the far late game, more manageable damage in the far late game, while still making them be able to feel like they're able to impact the game early. So I do think it's a healthy change for the game. More impactful with 1 items. Yeah, AD carry mythics are just among the best in the game, so that definitely worked out for them. Every AD carry mythic is very, very powerful. They wanted to fill in some item gaps where they wanted to make Marksman feel like there's a missing item for what they need, and find that item and give it to them. Yeah, there's a lot of new AD carry items now. Like, you have so many options. Like, you know, I've seen AD carries going Lord Doms. Like, I'm seeing them going that one anti-healing item. You know, collector. I mean, they still have options like rapid fire cannon, like phantom dancer. Like, there's so many, I can't even name them all. There's so many. Like, there's so many AD carry items, and they're all able to fill like a specific niche and a specific role that AD carries need. So yeah, I think with their marksman item like goals, they hit it out of the park. And in general, yes, it is healthier for the game in general. This might change in season 12 as you know, assassins look like they're getting a lot of power in season 12, but we'll see how it goes. In season 11, this is a good goal, and they performed well with this one. Good job, Riot. See, I can be nice about Riot Games sometimes. All right, time to be mean about Riot Games again. Mage items. Oh boy, Riot Games. All right, let's see what their goals were. First item choice. Mages today suffer from a set of first items that don't have clear trade-offs or situational purpose, making their first item choice basically predetermined in each meta based on whichever is tuned the strongest. In contrast, we think their mid-late options are pretty rich with some unique counter effects and activities like mages to have the same rich choice in their first item. Okay, so they also wanted to make new iconic effects for artillery mages, and they wanted to have ability haste to be a choice instead of a necessity. All right, so first item choice. Yes, so I'm gonna answer this one in 2 parts. This first paragraph here, they did make the first item choice for mages in general, you know, a good choice. You have your options of Everfrost, Leandries, you know, Ludens basically, and you would choose between those 3 depending on what kind of mage you are. You know, if you like to apply a lot of crowd control, double down, get Everfrost. If you just like to do a lot of like long fighting, Leandries. You know, if your abilities last for a long time, you know, aka Malzahar, Leandries. If you want to burst really hard, like a Syndra or a Lux, there's your Ludens, or sorry, yeah, there's your Ludens, right? But my issue here is they said, we think their mid-late options are pretty rich with some unique counter effects and actives. We like mages to have the same rich choice in their first items. They took away all of those rich late game choices. Like, we don't have nearly as many good, like, just AP options like compared to what we used to. Like, we lost a lot of items, like in the transition from season 10 to season 11, right? So this was sort of a hit and a miss. I think that they could have done a lot better, especially with mage items overall. Thankfully in season 12 looks like we have some good, you know, mage diversity options coming in finally, so ready for it. Because in season 11 it's just been AD assassin itemization, AD bruiser itemization is just AD carry itemization has just been S+ tier end all be all, like best in the game, right? And it's felt really bad sometimes as an AP champion. Oh, I forgot to mention Rocket Belt. You know, Rocket Belt is also AP champion option, not just AP assassins, but they lumped it in with the AP assassin items. So yeah, hit or miss. I would say honestly mostly miss because there's only 3 mythics that mages can pick from. So yeah, they could have done better. Could have done worse, honestly. No, I'll say that. I'll just say they could have done better. They probably couldn't have done worse. All right, AP fighter and AP assassin items. Oh boy. All right. First problem. I remember reading this back in the season or back last year, and I was thinking to myself, wow, why did they lump AP when they say AP fighter, they mean AP bruiser and AP assassins. Why did they lump AP bruiser and AP assassin items together in one category? Like one is like a bruisery tanky like long-term fighter, and the other is a squishy one-shotting burst assassin. Why are our items lumped together? Why was that? They said we want to serve a fairly decent sized group of champions with a new class of items because AP fighters and assassins are a fairly rare type of champion. Not so rare anymore. We ended up grouping them for the purposes of building a core item set. That's really bad. This was horrible. This did not work out. This ended up working well because they tend to need damage in early game and skew tankier bracelet with later choices. No, it did not work out well. All right, one of their first goals for this was tailored early build items. The AP champs have been borrowing from Mage items for as long as they've existed. Yes, they have. We want to offer some early buy choices that match the patterns and stats that they want, like things like damage / durability hybrids and manaless items are working well in our internal testing. So they're talking about Riftmaker, Riftmaker and Rocket Belt and I think I'm missing something, but yeah. Bridge into tank or pure AP later, like AD fighters. We don't think these champs need to build entirely within their own category of items to have a great item experience. Depending on the champion or game, let them transition into tank or pure AP items. To finish out their builds, lets them get a full set of choices available in those parts of the system and offers a lot of flexibility. Okay, so first of all, this is a lie. AD fighters have their own entire suite of items that they can build 6 items out of, especially in Season 11. AP bruisers don't have that. So this point was literally an entire lie. The way that they categorized it and defined it. This was a complete failure. This whole section of AP fighter and AP assassin items was a fail. They completely botched this. So what happened? They lumped together the AP bruiser and AP assassin items and basically said, have at it, guys. These are your items for everyone. So you had AP bruisers struggling a lot more than AP assassins because, man, our items sucked even harder than AP assassin items. At least AP assassins could have like Rocket Belt and what's the other one? Night Harvester. Thank you, Minishep one. Night Harvester, right? For 2 different items to access the burst that they want and the health not get one shot when they go in. AP bruisers, we had Riftmaker, and Riftmaker in its design is really not even that good for AP bruisers, and Riftmaker in its numbers doesn't like turn on until way too late in the game. It's not that good. It doesn't give you that much sustain. It doesn't give you that much damage. Like, it's just sort of like it's just really it's not what AP bruisers wanted, and thankfully they're doing a lot to fix this in season 12, and we're getting updates to items and new items that are going to help this a lot, and we're actually getting some, you know, good AP bruiser items. But like, man, they gave us one item as AP bruisers and said good luck. They replaced Leandries with Demonic, so I don't even consider that to be a new item because Leandries went to Mages and Demonic went to us when we already had Leandries the whole time. So fine, whatever. It's not really a new item. It's just a replacement for an item that already existed that they took away. And then they gutted the item, right? They nerfed it super hard in that preseason and then never looked back. Thankfully, in Season 12, it looks like they are going to be giving Demonic Embrace some love that it really needs, so I'm excited about that. But, man, like, they just failed on this point so hard from an AP Bruiser perspective. Like, they probably could not have done worse on this, if you'd ask me. Like, giving us just these super bad, like... And that's what they are. I know I'm not sounding really negative right now, but, like... They were bad. They were really bad. I spent the whole year complaining about these items, like, because they were bad, and I complain because I care, by the way. like, they're just, you can't expect a bruiser to build a 250 health rocket belt and be okay with that. You can't expect a bruiser to have a rift maker and then try and spike on it, and then it just does piss all nothing, right? Because Omnivamp doesn't work that well with AoE damage. Most AP bruisers are mostly AoE damage. The stats that it gives is you're not that tanky, you don't heal that much, it doesn't give you quite enough AP, like, you know, it was just a fail in general. Thankfully, they're looking to change this. As far as AP Assassins go, I mean, AP Assassins also suffered quite a bit. But AP Assassins individually, like, got buffed a lot over the course of the season because they just were shit for most of the season. Big example being LeBlanc. LeBlanc was shit for a lot of the season until she got, like, major buffs. And then all of a sudden, hey, I can play the game, I'm LeBlanc, right? So, yeah. Complete and utter fail. They're taking steps to fix this in Season 12, so I'm very excited. You guys have seen some of my pre-Season 12 videos, you know, new Demonic Embrace, new Fimbulwinter, like, there's a lot of other, Shadow Flame, right? There's another new item that gives AP and HP, the new, Horizon Focus, you know, there's a lot of things that are coming that are gonna be helping AP Bruisers, so I'm excited about that. Very excited. But as far as Season 11 goes, complete and utter fail. Probably the biggest, hardest fail that they had on this entire list was AP Fighter and AP Assassin items. Just, they completely botched this. Yeah, moving on. AD Fighter options. Tailored defensive options. Fighters today only have one size fits all defensive option in Serix, Gauge, or Death Stance, depending on which champ you're playing. Regardless of whether the enemy champ is more physical or magic, want to expand on fighter-specific defensive items to give more specialized options. For item diversity, core fighter items like Black Cleaver or Triforce bring fighter builds both the power they need and iconic play patterns, but there aren't decisions being made by fighters early in their build. We want to sharpen the current options and introduce some new ones that can compete for the crucial early slots in the fighter's build. Okay, so they failed on this. Yeah, Sterix Gauge is still a one-size-fits-all defensive option. Death Stance not so much, only because they made Death Stance pretty bad against magic damage. But Sterix Gauge, absolutely still one-size-fits-all defensive power. Big fail on that one. And then they said core fighter items like Black Cleaver or Trinity Force are core because they bring iconic play patterns, but there's no decisions being made by fighters. They want to sharpen the options. Okay, so they were saying that Black Cleaver and Triforce were being built too often by everyone that was AD Bruiser. Yes, that was true, they were. But now everyone just builds Divine Sunderer instead, so, like, you didn't really create any diversity. I think part of the problem is that AD Fighter, AD Bruiser items in Season 11 just suffer really hard from... They succeed very well from being just very powerful in general, like Divine Sunderer and Gore Drinker, man, they've both just been two of the best, if not the absolute best items in the game for the entire season that, like, oh man, I can't. I'm getting PTSD thinking about Gore Drinker and Divine Sunderer. They've just been so crazy powerful for the whole season, the entire season, that, like, I honestly, like, couldn't believe how long it took them to nerf 5 AD off of Divine Sunderer, how long it took them to change, you know, Gore Drinker to not be S+++ God tier. Now it's just S+ God tier. Like, just wild stuff. And they didn't hit their goals that they were talking about here. And AD Bruisers are still extremely powerful, and they're still healing absurd amounts. So we'll see how it goes. You can expect a lot of AD Bruiser players to be very angry when AP Bruisers start to, like, use the new Cosmic Drive, the new Demonic Embrace, by the way. Expect a lot of triggered AD Bruiser mains. Expect a lot of triggered Jax, a lot of triggered Camille, because they'll have to finally play against other champions that actually have items that are on a similar level to what they have access to. So that will be fun. But yeah, as far as AD Fighter items go, they did not hit these goals. In fact, they're just not healthy for the game, I think, in the state that they are. So we'll see if they change. Probably not. AD Assassin items. Ooh, juicy. All right, choices beyond ordering. AD Assassins have a few good choices around which items to buy first, second, or third. We think they lack a wider pool of more situational choices that most classes have. We hope to add a few more options so Assassins have more build variety from game to game. Intentional late build options. Assassins today have developed their late game build by pulling from other classes, and many of these choices feel suboptimal. We're going to look at what these types of items they need late game, and where it makes sense for them to draw from other classes, like fighters do, versus having a specialized assassin option. Okay, so they doubled back on this for season 12. They're giving them specialized assassin options for the late game. So basically they failed on the second paragraph completely, because they're getting, you know, late game build options in season 12, right, in the form of things like Axiom Arc and things like that, right? And as far as lethality items go, there's a lot of lethality options that are quite good. They can, and AD assassins are able to dip into things like, you know, the collector, Lord Doms. The big offenders this season though were AD assassins building Gore Drinker, man. Gore Drinker Kane, Gore Drinker Talon, Gore Drinker Zed, Gore Drinker, you know, your mom. Like, every single AD assassin was just spamming Gore Drinker and Conqueror, and they still can to a certain degree, even after the nerfs, right? So yes, I think that overall, you know, they did give them decent choices between Duskblade and the one that makes them jump, and I think, what's the other one? Duskblade, the jumpy one, and Eclipse one that heals and shields, right? I actually have a problem with Eclipse. I think Eclipse is just like one of the sleeper most OP items in the game. It's like a better version of Riftmaker. Eclipse is like what Riftmaker should have been, like based around shielding and not freaking Omnivamp, right? Like, yeah, it gives Omnivamp so they can heal a bit, but the whole idea of the item is based around shielding whenever you hit combos. So I think that's way cooler than what Riftmaker is, and that's part of what I think Riftmaker should have been more like that. But I mean, yeah, they have good mythics and they have good like situational mythics that you can build in response to things. I see AD assassins, they do swap their mythics up, so like they do have a good first item choice. But the problem is that Gore Drinker is just so good that they just build that anyways, right? So like, yeah, I think because they failed on the AD fighter items, that sort of means they like halfway fail. Like, when AD assassins are building AD assassin items, yes, they do have a good first item choice, but they're not. They're building Gore Drinker and they're abusing Gore Drinker, so it's like sort of a success and sort of a fail on this one. So yeah, all right, moving on. Okay, here's a juicy one. Tank items. They wanted more options to adapt to team strategy. Do you want to match a split pushing Trendemir? Do you want to engage on Azir or protect a Kog'Maw carry? All of these directions should be clearly supported by new options. Alright. Filled out magic resist options. They feel like there's not enough MR options, and they wanted to help you deal with teams that have multiple AP playstyles at once. Okay, they wanted to enhance tank utility by creating more items to showcase the utility and attributes of tanks beyond their baseline defense. Okay. And they wanted late game capstone items where you've seen a satisfying type of item across a few other classes that's only efficient when bought late game, but creates a satisfying capstone that feels like it completes your build. Want to create one or two of these items for tanks to be excited about their late game slots. Okay, so from the top, more item options to adapt to team strategy. Do you want to match a split pushing Trendemir, Anathemas, hard engage on Nazir, Turbo Chem Tank, protect a Kog'Maw carry, Locket? All these directions should be clearly supported by new options. Okay, Locket is a support tank item, not a general tank item. For them to label as a general tank item, I think is a bit disingenuous. Or at least that's what they were going for with this, right? Hard engage on Azir, great idea and concept. Turbo Chem Tank has been nerfed into the ground, basically. And match a split pushing Trendemir. Anathemas Chains, right. You know, Anathemas Chains, I will say, was a success. So yes, tanks do have more options in general now. However, a lot of these options are locked behind what role you are and what kind of tank you are, right? So like certain tanks, like with Braum, you're not going to build a Righteous Glory on Braum because you have to build items to protect your Kog'Maw, right? So it's like, for them to kind of sell this as items that you can use to help generally every tank as opposed to just specific certain like subtypes of tanks is sort of dishonest, I think. But in general, yes, I will say that they did succeed on this first paragraph with creating different items for tanks to match team strategies. Okay. That being said, the items themselves, however, were shit. Tank mythics are each individually shit in Season 11. They are changing them a lot in Season 12 for them to be a lot more unique and better and more fun and fill out their niche even better, so I'm excited for that. But in Season 11, not excited about them at all. In Season 11, most people have been complaining about tank items for the entire season. They just weren't that good in Season 11. filling out MR options. Yeah, no, fail. Which is fine. Adaptive Helm was horrific to play against for me as a Singed player, and it felt very unfair when the enemy top laner could buy Adaptive Helm, and then all of a sudden they were just immune to you for the rest of the game. Yeah, that felt terrible. That should have never happened. At the same time, I can also understand how it feels like as a tank you don't have really that many options for MR because you have what, Abyssal Mask and Visage, and if you can't spam heal, then Visage is not as good for you, so you just have Abyssal Mask. Your other item that you can get is like Stone Plate, but Stone Plate's like kind of that late game capstone option that also gives you a ton of armor, so if they don't have that much AD, you're wasting a lot of money on getting that Stone Plate, right? So for me, the fact that they failed this category, this paragraph, was a good thing, but I have to be honest, and you know, they did fail. You know, they didn't fill out the MR options the way that they could have, so yeah, they didn't succeed on this one. Enhanced tank utility, I can't even think of what they did to do this. It just seems like a filler paragraph to me, a filler bullet point. Enhanced tank utility, I mean, like, no, Knight's Vow is more of an enchanter item now anyways. Like, they didn't really do anything about this. Like, yeah, there's Locket and stuff like that, but again, you know, they didn't do much for this one, so I'll go ahead and say that enhanced tank utility was a fail. Late game capstone items. You see a satisfying type. Oh yeah, so this was basically, I think that tanks got Stone Plate. What else did they get? Warmogs, I guess, was always, now that was always in the game. Anathemas, I mean, Anathemas is even more of a mid game item, I think, than is like a late game capstone item. Like, yeah, it's really good late game on tanks, but wouldn't call it a late game capstone item, right? Like, yeah, no. In general, they only hit one of the goals they had for tanks, which was to give a wider variety of items to respond to people with. And the problem was that the items, besides Anathemas, the items specifically that they put out kind of sucked. So, yeah, in general, they sort of failed on the tank section completely. So, hoping that things change and get better for my tank brethren in Season 11. I have the luxury of being a bruiser as well, so it's a little bit different for me, but hopefully for pure tank players, it's a little bit better in Season 12. We'll see how it goes. Alright, Enchanter items, more options for build variety. They wanted to create an ecosystem that had more than a few items. They said that the viable pool of items is too shallow, and they wanted to upgrade underused items into viable choices to create new Enchanter items for new spaces. Solve active overload. They said Enchanters have more actives than any other class, and they wanted to only have one or two active items as an ideal. Okay, fair enough. More clear strengths on each item. A couple items fall into good everything category while they provide defense, CDR, healing management, and active. We wanted to have more focused items with a clear purpose. Yeah, I think in general they did succeed on most of these points. Like, so there's definitely variety in enchanters in enchanter support mythics, right? So Moonstone versus Mandate. You know, if you want to have more burst for your team, you know, Mandate. If you want to have movement speed, then Shurelya's, right? If you need to like go around and engage, and if you need just healing and shielding, then go Moonstone. That being said, a lot of the champions that are enchanters, you know, it might not be optimal all the time to build a different mythic than what you're quote unquote supposed to build, but you can, right? You can go Moonstone Nami instead of Mandate if you want to. You know, you can go Shurelya's, you know, Yuumi instead of Moonstone if you want to. Right? Is it ideal? No, but it's not like you're losing the game specifically because you did that. Like, yeah, I think that they do have build variety now compared to what they used to. And some of the new items also help with that, especially Staff of Flowing Water helps a lot with that. The new, the item that like holds wards and gives you percentage bonuses of stats, that one's really cool as well. Chemtech, anti-healing item, I forget what it's called, is super cool as well. They reduced the amount of redemption being in literally every single game, so that was good as well, which meant they're also hitting points 2 and 3 on that one. You know, supports also have the option to build Anathemas now if they want to. I see a lot of tank supports doing Anathemas, but this is Enchanter specific, so I guess I shouldn't mention that. I mean, I think in general, yeah, they did do well on Enchanter items. As far as active overload, I mean, I don't really play Enchanter that much, so I don't know if they reduced it in general to Enchanters only doing 1 or 2 active items. So I can't really, like, I don't have a take on this one. Maybe my Enchanter viewers can speak up in the comments and say what happened with this one. But more clear strengths on each item. They wanted to prevent this Enchanter problem that they had where every item was as good at everything, right? I think in general they did do that. So this is another example I used earlier, but like with Knight's Vow, right? They removed the armor on Knight's Vow to make it more of like a, oh, I'm just gonna soak your damage and you go faster type thing, right? Or we go faster type thing. As opposed to, I'm just unkillable now and you're unkillable, like, you know, that was a little bit sus, right? And they did that with a lot of the items, right? So you have, I guess Redemption's a good example. Mikhail's, like, these items don't give nearly as much of, like, every single stat compared to what they used to. So I think in general, yeah, I think it is a little bit healthier. I don't know if they worked it out for the whole class to be like this. Again, my enchanters in the comments speak up and tell me how this worked out for this last point. But I think in general, yeah, they did succeed on at least 2 out of 3 of these points here. I don't know about the active overload, right? So I'll have to be educated on that one, but for points 1 and 3, I think they did do a pretty good job. Overall, what are my thoughts on Season 11? I mean, not to be too negative, but as a AP Bruiser player, as a Singed player, as a top laner, that had to play versus Camille, Fiora, Kennen, Jace, being god tier the entire year, playing through the Turbo Chem Tank Phase Rush meta earlier with Hecarim and Udyr. I mean, it was, I don't know if it's because of the new mythics just like making everything weird, or legendaries being changed all around that made everything weird. It was one of the more unfun seasons for me, for sure. Like, yeah, there was points where I had fun, but in general, like, it was not as fun for me as other seasons. Like, it didn't feel as fun, it didn't feel as enjoyable. Like, it felt sort of messy, it felt sort of underdeveloped, like, it felt rushed. It didn't feel as, like, complete, it didn't feel as, like, fulfilling to play. It just, and I know a large part of that is because my champion literally didn't have any items in Season 11 that were good. And I know you guys have heard me talk about that, I know you guys have heard me complain about that, so I'm not going to hit on that too hard, but, like, yeah, for me, it wasn't as fun. I'll be honest, you know? I know for a lot of people that they did have a lot of fun this season. For me, I didn't have as much fun as I usually do playing League of Legends this year, and I know it's because of the lack of items for my champion, lack of items for my champion class, lack of, like, general healthy development of the game. Healing still absolutely crazy. Shielding is even crazier now as well. They just did not hit that goal in the way that they wanted to, which was one of the biggest complaints about Season 10, was healing was too high, so they just went and, like, dialed it up even more healing, basically, right? So it didn't feel like a lot of the issues from the last season were addressed at all, where while they also just created a bunch of new issues, right? So if I had to rate Season 11 out of 10, I would probably give it a 2, being generous. I mean, not my favorite season by far, not Riot's best season by far. I think Season 10 was so far like their swan song for what League of Legends, like, I think Season 10, even with the healing creep, right? Even with the healing creep in Season 10, I think Season 10 was, like, near the peak of what Riot has achieved in terms of, like, League of Legends gameplay, with so many different champions being viable, items for everybody, not one single class is abhorrently overpowered, right? Not one role besides jungle is abhorrently overpowered. Season 10 was fantastic in my opinion. Season 11, I think because of how big of a goal the item changes were and how many champions they have in the game, I think they just messed things up, and you know, it happened, right? Sure, it's over now, thank God, almost. Few more days, like 2 more days, but almost over. And my champion class of AP Bruisers is getting new items in Season 12, and they're getting item updates as well, so I'm excited, right? Optimistic for the future. When you are coming out of rock bottom, it's easy to be optimistic about the future because you have seen what the worst can hold for you. So, that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely a bit of more of a long form, like, just talking head type thing, but a lot of people reacted positively to me saying that I wanted to make this type of video, so I'm glad for those of you who chose to sit here and watch this whole thing. I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching my content. I do appreciate it so much. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. So peace, and thank you for watching.